Hey, what's going on, all you managers and leaders? We're just so glad that you're with us again this week. We've been really digging deep into the book High Road Leadership, which is John Maxwell's latest masterpiece. And today we're going to go a little deeper with that. Through the series, through this time together, we will be injecting other things because that's how I always do it. I always think of something that goes with something and I add it. So we're in no hurry to get through it, but I'll hit on the book for the most part every week. And let's rock and roll with that now. So, first of all, thank you for being here. I'm proud of you for being here. You and I get that these are 20-minute sessions that are really valuable. And we know is if you're listening to this, what, what I want to tell you a couple things, a couple rules of the road going forward. You will be getting this email to play whenever you want to. So I'm recording it on Wednesdays, usually Wednesday mornings, sometimes Tuesday nights. But from now on, I'm going to send it into you as opposed to in the past, ladies and gentlemen, where I did it live. The problem with that is sometimes it didn't record, and I don't want that to happen again. So from now on, we will be recording it on Zoom. We'll send it over to you. If you're the kind of person that likes to have a recording and watch the PowerPoint, a lot of times we'll have a PowerPoint that goes right along with it. And if you're the kind of person that just wants to listen to the lesson while you're walking on the golf course, God bless you. You can do that too. You just obviously will open up the email and you can listen to it recorded from the email. So they will be at your box by 11 o'clock on Mountain Time going forward. This one's getting put into your box a little bit later than that, but going forward, they will be in your box by 11 Mountain Time. And I want to make sure that I'm being true to that going forward. Okay. Sales, if you also have the sales lessons, they will be in your box going forward. We sent those out a little bit ago, but going forward, they'll be in your box 10 Mountain Time. And again, leadership will be in your box 11 Mountain Time going forward. Cool. Right on. So let's start. Let's rock and roll. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, right? We get that. And John talks a lot about that. That the reality is for you and me is that we need to be really clear on where we are with our influence. We've talked about this actually on our sales side of things today. You and I cannot have influence if we don't have rapport. You just can't. Now, you might think, look, let me back up on that. You can have influence without rapport if they respect you as an expert and authority. For example, you go to the best surgeon in the world and you walk in and he is a jerk or she's a jerk. You're still going to allow them to influence you because you are certain they know what they're talking about. But on the other hand, most of us, we might be the best in the world at what we do, but we can't get by sharing influence if we don't have a relationship. So John is a relationship leader. He believes in that. If you remember the 5 levels of leadership, the first level is position. There's no influence going on really. The level 1 leader uses other people's positions, other people's authorities to get what they want done. For example, when I was a young manager at a dealership, my boss's name was Jeff Lewis, and I would say, Jeff wants this done. Go ahead and get that done. Jeff might have never told me to say that, but I knew his influence would help me and give me influence on these people because I had none. Then there's those permission leaders, which is level 2 of the 5 levels. They build great relationships with their people. And that's great. That's good. But if their people aren't making any money, if it's just part of eliminating, if it's just relationships, then the problem with that is they eventually don't follow it anymore. There's no influence. And where you might have had influence in the beginning because they really liked you and you're really charismatic and you're a nice person, if you don't know your stuff, if you're not helping them produce, I'm sorry. The next level 3 is production's results. We're in a results-oriented business in automotive. We've always been that way. That's a great thing. We need results, but if you don't have relationships, eventually those people are going to leave. So those 2 things, a great leader is a 2 and a 3. They build relationships and they have production. And yet there's that fourth leader. And the fourth leader is a people development leader where you, because of your influence, because they respect you, because there's a relationship, because they've made money with you, and because you spend time to grow them, you are developing people who develop people who develop people. You get the point. So let's talk a little bit farther about what this means in terms of leadership. The question I believe that has to be asked by you is what's your identity as a leader? What kind of leader do you want to be? I've seen leaders that are extremely, oh, let's call them a pit bull. And then I've seen leaders that are poodles. And for me, somebody was telling me at NADA, a dealer was that he was in the bathroom, he was in going to the bathroom, and somebody came next to him and started pitching while he was peeing because he knew he couldn't grab this guy. Well, that's a pit bull. But pit bulls can be really annoying. We know we need, and we see pit bulls on social media. Some of them are just jacks, right? And some of you might love that approach and want to be that kind of approach. I'm not going to debate it if that's what you want to be. Others might find that annoying. The older I get, the probably more annoying I find that. Look, I'm a high energy guy. I believe that my energy is very authentic though. I think if you and I are going to have more influence with people, we've got to be authentically energetic. But here's the deal. And I love this quote. It's my favorite quote. You and I can get anything we want if, what's the rest of the quote? Go ahead and say it out loud. If we get enough, if we help enough people get what they want. You and I can get anything we want if we help enough people get what they want. So, how do we help them get what we want? What they want? We find out what it is. We know in our people who they are. We know how to connect with them. I'm blown away, more than blown away, but just stunned. I was reading a story last week about a basketball player in the market where I live. And he is not getting a lot of playing time. He did last year, this year, he's not. He's been struggling with some health issues. But he said it's been 2 months since his coach talked to him, and he doesn't know why he's benched. Now, that's why you and I have to be careful. If you think you're a coach, then you are mistaken. That's why I call leaders that are people developers activators, because an activator would never let that happen where there's no communication. See, great activators are great communicators. Great activators can read the audience. Great activators are emotionally intelligent. They self-aware. They manage themselves really well. When they do something stupid, they call themselves on it. When they do something great, they see it. When they've got habits that they have to break, they work on breaking those habits. So they're self-aware and self-managed. They are socially aware. They can read a room. I was, I shared this with you about a leader who called me on the phone and said his number one guy was struggling communicating with his people. He said he had a couple people come up to them and to him actually and complain about his leadership because he wasn't engaged, he wasn't helping them. And that manager, that it's actually my son was telling me the story. That manager is the kind of person, frankly, that is not socially aware. And then the last one is relationship management. Relationship management means we have relationships. We're deep in relationships. We value relationships. So self-aware, self-management, socially aware, social management, or relationship management. Here's the deal. If you and I don't have all those things in our repertoire, we're not going to make as much money. How do you like them apples? That's really true. If we don't have, if we're not socially aware, we are not going to make as much money because those four components are part of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence people, when they rise 1 point in emotional intelligence on the scale, they make $13,247.82 more than they did before. The average person in the world that's high in emotional intelligence, we're talking average here, and you might say it's not a very good number, makes $30,000 more a year. Now you might say, well, that's not very much. Well, for somebody that's making 60, another 30 is 30% of their income, right? For somebody that's making 100, another 30, it's pretty, it helps, right? 30, and look, that's average. But you and I don't want to be average. We want to be elite. We want to have mastery. I love this. This is when we talk about what kind of leader do you want to be. I mentioned this in my learning platform, but there's four areas of knowledge. Number one is unconscious incompetence. What's that? I mean, think about when you first became a leader. You didn't know what you were doing. Man, you were number one in sales, or you were number one in service, or you were really good in the business office, or you knew parts, right? But you were number one. Then it's like a high school athlete that goes to college. Then you're not number one anymore, are you? You're starting at the bottom. And when you first start something new, you're unconsciously incompetent. What's that mean? That you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, it's not even a bad feeling because you don't know any different. But in about a week or two in that new role, you realize that you know what you don't know. Now think about this. You sell 30 a month as a salesman. I've got a guy in mind when I say this. Good salesman, good guy, kind of grumpy at times. And then, I mean, when we did sales training, he was there and he wanted to help, but his ego would get in the way and he would have rather taught it than sat in the back of the room. But I used him. I used him to help me because he was a brilliant kid, brilliant guy. And he got promoted to the desk and he's sitting next to a guy that has been around for a while. Actually, a couple guys. One guy, a good teacher, good leader. The other guy, been around a long time, kind of a crotchety guy. That guy that has glue on his ass and doesn't get off the desk. You probably know that person. And that person, actually, the one with glue on his ass, can I say that on this? That guy was actually the teacher of the new guy. We'll call him Johnny. Johnny was the new guy. And Johnny started getting crotchety because his teacher was crotchety. Johnny started getting glue on his ass because his teacher had glue on his ass. So then the question becomes, who's training your managers, right? Look, I've said this before. I did a webinar last night, and I've said this before. I'm blown away when I do boot camps or I work with managers at all, and they haven't read a book since high school. Are you kidding me? Look, here's what happens. That 30 car a month person, whoever that is at any dealership, what's going on is he learned sales, or maybe it was just that prodigy that knew sales, didn't have to read a sales book. Me, I had to read 20,000 sales books. And I started really bad and I got pretty darn good. But not every, some people just get it quicker, right? So this guy was really that guy, I think, that I told you about, Johnny, right? But in the reality of that, he had never really studied his craft. So then, because he's a top dog, they go ahead and promote him to a position where he's going to lead other men and women. He's never led anybody other than himself, and he wasn't very good at that. He was crotchety at home. He was a good dad, but he wasn't. He was not a very nice person. But they promoted him because he sold a lot, and he got to the desk, and guess what? He wasn't a very nice person. He wasn't going to change unless he had different mentors and leaders and activators to help him. How often does that happen? So anyhow, we talked about unconscious incompetence, don't know what you don't know, and then conscious incompetence. And then you realize, oh shoot, I'm not very good at this. I don't know if Johnny ever realized he wasn't good at it, but he really wasn't. And then we go to the next level of competence, and that's called conscious competence. What's that? That's when you know what you know, right? Or you know you're not very good, right? Or you're pretty good at it, but you're not superstar level. So you're unconsciously competent, you just don't know anything. Then you become consciously competent, you're consciously incompetent. I hope I said that right. Let me start over. Unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Consciously incompetent. You know you aren't very good, right? Very humbling place. The third level is consciously competent. And that means you know what to do, but you got to think through it. And the last one is unconsciously competent. That's mastery, where you just know this stuff and you just can rattle it off and you're just really good at it. I believe there's a lot of areas in terms of teaching leadership and coaching leadership. I'm unconsciously competent. I got this stuff down over and over again. I can remember quotes of books. Why? Because I was so bad for so long. So, and what's cool about that is now I can help managers not have to do all the study I did. I can help them get there quicker and slow the path down. So, what kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be a positional leader? Do you want to be a permission leader? Do you want to be a production leader? Do you want to be permission and protection? Or do you want to get to that level that we've talked about before, which is the people development leader? Look, I'm just telling you the key to our business in the next 5 years is for you to be a people development leader, to have emotional intelligence, to work on your emotional intelligence, to really be clear of how you get mastery. All right, good job. All right, so let's talk about this book, High Road Leadership. We've been talking about that for the last 3 weeks. John says there's three kinds of leadership. And last week we took you through the high, middle, and low road leader. And there's three high road leader attributes. Excuse me, there's 12. Okay. Number one, they value all people. We got deep into that a little bit. Well, at least we skimmed on that a little bit last week. Value people. And what did we say? That we're people of value that add value to people of value. Let me say that one more time. We are people of value. Repeat that out loud. That add value to people of value. Look, in my world, I would not go to work if I couldn't add value. And what that might mean is at 7 o'clock in the morning, probably 6 or 5, I'm reading something that gets my brain working. So I'm ready to add value to you. My Wednesdays are about that. My Tuesdays are about that because Tuesday nights I'm starting these webinars. My Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays are like that because I do boot camps all during the week. So I need to add value. The people of value. I love my people. I certainly do. It doesn't mean I'm going to give them a big old fat kiss or a 20-second hug. It means I respect them. I honor them. I'm patient with them. I don't judge them. I have hope in them. I have faith in them. That's what it means for me to love my people. And I have incredible relationships. And again, I don't judge them. Not everybody believes everything I believe. I get that. I'm okay with that. But I'm not going to stop if I know something works because I've studied it enough to know it works. It's so interesting. And I've had this happen. I do boot camps, right? They're 12 weeks. And I'm thinking, matter of fact, in my last few boot camps, I've signed my clients up for a year. So we're not in any real hurry to get through the boot camp. We want to be concise so that it doesn't go on for a year. And we want to be concise in that but we don't want to be so concise that it's stressful. I've done these 12-week boot camps that are fantastic, but it requires 3 hours a week for the people in the boot camp. It really does. And what that means is they have to read an hour. They haven't read since high school. They have to hang out with me for an hour in group, which is good. And they have to do one-on-ones with me, which can be intense, man. And it's good for them and it grows them. And yet there's so much information. I think they lose a lot. I think a lot spills out. So what I decided to do was sign people up for 1 year gigs, give them other stuff too, and sign them up for 1 year gigs so that I can take 24 weeks to do a boot camp. Even if it's a one-on-one. One-on-ones are usually shorter just because there's so many of them. But in boot camps, when we go through like develop the leader boot camp, take it for 24 weeks. So we do a chapter every 2 weeks and we talk every week. And the point of that is that they don't feel they're getting a lot of knowledge and they don't feel rushed. So I'm learning how to best add value to my people of value. And we'll probably switch it up again. I'm sending out sales training, manager training videos every week. We're redeveloping our platform to have eventually it'll have 500 videos on it, probably by the end of by midsummer, if not earlier. So we're adding new content from people that are in sales or leadership. We've got John Maxwell content on there, where John's got 15 or 20 courses, if I'm remembering, and each of those courses has close to 15 videos. So a client can just go watch that on their own. So we're people of value that add value to people of value. And that's what I do. I want to add more value than anyone could expect. The next part you can see on here, it says develop emotional capacity. And I think that takes us back to what we talked about with emotional intelligence. If you don't have emotional intelligence as a leader, you're not going to be able to develop emotional capacity in yourself or your people. If you've got, and I wrote a book called Keep the Change, and it's the 12 steps of recovery in what I call a leadership book. But step one is admit. If you've got something in your leadership world that you don't admit, maybe you're mean, maybe you're impatient, maybe you're just narcissistic, whatever it is, that's something you need to work on. And I can't tell you how many people have told me something they need to admit. That's good. That's emotional capacity. But then we go to the next part, which we talked about, self-management. If you don't do anything about it, step three in recovery is make a decision. If you don't act on that thing you know you're supposed to do, then the problem with that is you're going to keep beating yourself up over number one. You're not doing anything about it, number two. That's going to drive your self esteem down, number three. So great leaders are aware, they admit it, they know themselves really, really well. Their strengths and their weaknesses, they're very vulnerable. They can tell what they did right and they can talk about what they did wrong. I mean, they're okay with it. I was listening to Patrick Lencioni, who's written a number of books, and he's an incredible coach. And he had a CEO that he was coaching. And what happened was he had sent out a 360 survey to all the CEO's people. And in that 360 survey, it came back. Patrick looked it over, and it said that that manager was a lousy listener, and he continually interrupted, and he was hostile. When Patrick went to that manager, let's call him Chuck, and he said to him, Chuck, you're hostile. People think you don't listen, and you're lousy. You always interrupt. Guess what he did? He got defensive. A day later, they're in a meeting, and Lencioni said, the last thing you want to do is attack them for saying that. The next day, they're in a meeting, and the Chuck got in the meeting and said, "Hey, I heard you guys think I don't listen. Hey, I heard you think I'm hostile. Hey, I heard you think that I don't that I'm impatient, that I interrupt you." Locked up the whole room. Now, this is a guy that knows how to make ROI, but he has not a clue about emotional capacity. Lindsay only stopped the meeting, got stopped it, brought him in the office and said, "Dude, you just ruined it. You broke any rapport you had, you just got rid of it." And he really actually just told him the way it was. He humbled him. And the next day, that CEO called an emergency meeting and apologized. He said, "I was wrong. You're trying to help me be better so that we could work together better. I was way wrong. I was just stupid. And I'm sorry." When you and I can be vulnerable, when we can say, "I'm sorry," when we can tell people that, now that is emotional capacity. See, what he didn't have, that CEO, he couldn't read the room, man. He did not read the room at all. And because of that, he had no relationship. So his emotional intelligence was really low. And it's funny how sometimes people get leadership roles and they know how to make money, man, but they don't know how to be emotionally intelligent. So, hey, that's what we talked about. And I'm going to just ask you a couple questions as we wrap up today. How do you value others? I'm going to give you a little assignment before we get together next time. I want you to look at all the people that are on your team. How do you value them? Do you know about them? And I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on how you value them, that particular person. 10 being you value them, you've had lunch together, they've been to your house, you have great leadership conversations, whatever it is. And one being, I'm not very good. And what could happen is that person that's working as a body shop attendant, maybe an intern, you don't know anything about them. I get it. But what would be the value of valuing all people, not just some people? What kind of a message does it send? Remember, they're watching you. They're watching me, they being everybody else. And if you value some people because they're producers and other people because they aren't, what's that say about your leadership? Go ahead and ask yourself, how do you value others? Take a picture of the screen if you want and rate them 1 to 10. And you know my email. It's bart@bartnolenberger.com. That's bart@bartnolenberger.com. I'm going to challenge you to send it over to me. List the people, put their names on there, and 1 to 10. And if you and I are on a coaching call, then that's something we can talk about. So, hey, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you being with me today. I always love hanging with you. I hope you like this format. I hope this information did right with you. I think it did. I love it. So we'll talk to you next time.